Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniatures. Today we have a very random kit because I don't know why it was at the little random anime store at the mall that I was waiting for my kids because they had a date with some dude and I offered to pick them up. Anyway, so we've got an Uesugi Kenshin model, or just Kenshin actually, it doesn't say anything about Uesugi, but anyways, from Kotobukiya's frame arms line. Frameworks is the D&D stuff from WizKids in plastic. But what's interesting about this design is it's actually made by Kunio Okawara, the designer of Gundam and a bajillion other Sunrise properties. So that's kind of this guy's big ticket to fame. As far as I know, other than the Takeda Shingen model that was in similar, I think they just called it in Shingen, in design to this, it's kind of its own unique frame arms, and it doesn't really have the frame arms look to it. I, on the other hand, am an absolute sucker for samurai models, so this was just an instant purchase for me, especially considering it was in such a random store for a stupidly cheap price, less than 20 bucks. I will absolutely jump at that. Now, moment of truth, I own multiple frame arms kits, and I've never built a single one. That's really sad. Jesus, that's a lot of pieces. I am quite experienced when it comes to building Kotobukiya models, so I at least know what I'm getting into. Lots of sharp pieces, lots of color separation, and just lots of really nice quality in general. I think with this kit, it looks to be a little bit more straightforward and less of a hassle than some of the Magical Girl Mecha Musume type models that they've done. Some of those had such fiddly parts everywhere. This doesn't have any floating things. No extra stands. No stand at all, actually. This looks really straightforward, which is almost a bit of a change of pace for Kotobukiya. Like, what happened? Like I said, you've got a lot of different color breakdown pieces, which is something I've always enjoyed about their kits, and I guess that's why they tend to have a bit of a higher price point. You know, of course, they don't have anything about the figure itself in English, which is a shame. In case you are aware, most Kotobukiya kits also have these order forms if you ever need replacements or want to order specific parts. I've never tried from the US. I have done it in Japan, and I gotta say it was actually really prompt service, but that's, you know, to be expected. Alright, we're not using those parts. That's interesting. I'm assuming there's a bit of a crossover in parts usage between this and that Shingen kit. No, I don't see any English translations. That's not the worst. Battle graffiti. On the plus side, there's a lot of color pictures in here, which should help in getting things painted if you so desire. I actually thought these wing appendage shield things were actually on the shoulders, but it looks like they're on the back. I was not aware of that. So, with that introduction, I mean, everything looks pretty straightforward. We do have the color breakdown if you are going to paint it there. I'm not. I'm lazy, but honestly, most of the Koto stuff is pretty much good to go. So, give me a sec. We will put it together as I figure out why my camera is so lopsided at the moment, and you want to see those results? Then sit tight. Alright, we got Kenshin put together here. And I have to say, for my actual first frame arms kit, it wasn't a bad build. I vaguely recall seeing these figures with pre-built frames, maybe like when they first started making them. I mean, that was quite a few years ago, admittedly, but I mean, the process wasn't bad or anything, and this is probably the closest feeling Gundam kit I can ever recall building from Kotobukiya. Few things of note. So I really like the way that the shoulder pads are attached to the backpack. Not only do they have the typical plug joint, but then they actually have 2 extra notches to get things firmly attached, and there is a lot of variance of how you can play around with it. I was a bit surprised that I totally misplaced the stickers that are supposed to go there, and I just found them right before filming. I was kind of surprised by the lack of colors. So what do I mean by that? This is actually a remake, slight variant on their Shingen model, and as such, I thought there was a ton of excess parts that, so like we have one of the frames that had the gold parts was also in red, but looking carefully at the box art, there's a lot of his frame that was supposed to have like red highlights, red parts on it, and there obviously isn't. There's supposed to be like another layer on his chest there, and it just kind of ends up being a bit, you know, overtly blue. And I think there was something supposed to attach on those shoulders, and I can't remember now. Maybe that's just like a generic frame arms port or plug. I'm not 100% sure. I do like the spear. And again, I was kind of surprised by just the lack of color separations, considering the size and bulk of the box. I was expecting a little bit more in that regard. So like, for example, if I can actually get the blade out, you know, it's just a single solid black piece. There's no actual like parts being attached. And the smaller blade is just actually the hilt plugged into the scabbard with the, I don't know if it's a tanto or wakizashi. I don't know what it's supposed to be. Smaller blade is actually its own separate piece. There is also the fan, but I feel like this was included in the Shingen model as well. So it is going to need a little bit of glue to actually, you know, finish things off, which isn't the worst thing in the world. There is also the optional headpiece, and both of them are in need of a bit of touch-up in terms of getting all of the colors correct. I mean, it is a nice little kit. Now, let me also say that you will see a lot of ugly sprue marks, and that is because I had an old pair of clippers, like, I'm talking old, like 20 plus years at this point. They're a bit dull, that were sitting with me because I actually finished building this guy during parent conference week at school, and didn't have access, for obvious reasons, to any hobby knives in the classroom. We don't keep those handy, but I will be cleaning things up a little bit because I actually would like to put a little bit of paint. I do not really care for just the generic, you know, overtly blueness. Like, there's supposed to be a bunch of red on his skirt armor there. And again, there were no stickers. There's just not much else included there, which was kind of strange. I wasn't used to that. I don't know if that's going to be something that I would encounter in any of the other frame arms kits, and I'm looking up at my shelf of unfinished kits that haven't been opened yet, and I can count at least 3 others up there. So, yeah, that's kind of scary. If you're curious how big it is, again, I at least had my expectations tempered, knowing well in advance that despite the size of a Kotobukiya box, it was not going to end up being a very large model in that regard. I don't know, it's kind of like between a 1/144th and a 1/100th. We can say this is a 1/20th scale, maybe? I'm not sure. So hopefully if you do ever encounter any of these in the wild, expectations should, you know, be kept in check. At least in terms of expecting for the size, because honestly, a lot of those Kotobukiya boxes are about the size of at least the older Master Grade models that Bandai was releasing. You know, these days they're a lot larger, but then again, I can even actually argue that I have built Kotobukiya kits that were just as large of boxes as a Master Grade. A lot of the older Super Robo War kits spring to mind immediately. The Wise Ritter, the Line Wise Ritter. Yeah, that thing was a massive box. And that thing was color separated to hell and back. That thing had so many freaking pieces, and I love that kit. It's sat quite proudly on my cabinets at work for many and many a year. I don't know why I have a random 30-minute mission guy here, just I guess for exercise comparison. I don't have any other Kotobukiya kits handy. That's crazy now that I think about it. That's going to have to be remedied. So, overall, not a bad kit. Didn't pay an exorbitant amount for it. So if you do happen to come across one for a reasonable price, might be worth something picking up, especially if you don't have a lot of samurai-themed mecha kits. really gave me a bit of a nostalgic throwback, especially color-wise. I had this old Takara Benkei kit. Like, what's the dude's name? Yoshitsune Benkei, those two dudes. The whole Legend of Yoshitsune. The warrior monk who's supposed to, you know, fight on the bridge. Anyway, similar color scheme, similar design, except that guy had a ton of accessories, and it was this weird quasi squished up SD kit. That's really obscure if you want to go hunting for that thing. But yeah, gave me a lot of those similar vibes, and it was like something I picked up at like Mandarake for 200 yen or something ridiculous. But sadly, this guy was a bit more than that. But overall, I'm pleased with it. Like I said, I knew what I was getting into ahead of time. Overall, a fun little kit. I'm not 100% sold on the design of these weird wing shield things, but it's neat. It's different. And I'm one that always seems to enjoy something different, so can't complain there. But yeah, I guess with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamerlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye!